Hello, my name is Ingrid Cribbs, and I am the Director of Spiritual Formation at Holy Spirit Anglican Church. And I'm here to talk to you about one of our goals. Our 2023 goals as a congregation is to take up the practice of the Daily Examen. And now that we have Lent is here, and it's a great time of self-reflection, and we are ready to go with our examen. I first want to say that a spiritual practice is not a way to earn God's favor, but it is a way of making us more aware of God's presence, that is the goal of a spiritual practice. We can't earn God's love. If we do the examen every single day perfectly, it's not going to get us any favor from God, but it can make us more aware of his presence in our lives and in the lives of others. So I want to begin by talking about why. Why do we even want to do a daily examen? And I think of it as a very countercultural thing to do to end our day, reflecting on where we noticed God throughout the day, because our culture is not focused on that. There's no one's going to give us a pat on the back for ending our day, noticing God's presence, instead of ending our day glued to our phone that has dictated our fast-paced day or screen. That is what kind of the world is saying that we should end our day, zoned out, disassociated from the world, from everything around us on these screens. So what we're doing is countering that by choosing to pray the daily examen together. And I, believe that as we end our day in that way, that it will change us going forward into the next day. And it's just a reorienting us to God's presence. Where did we see God moving, and how do we see him? What is he inviting us into next? And I also want to acknowledge that starting a spiritual practice is really hard. It's not an easy thing to do. It can be very awkward. It can be kind of like, I don't know if I'm doing this right or wrong, or not that there's a right or wrong way to do it, but it's very awkward. Like, it's not easy to just jump right into self-reflection and even being aware of where God was in the ordinary moments of our life takes practice. It's not natural to be able to do that. So I want to acknowledge that at first, because it may be awkward, or maybe you get into it and it's exciting at first, but it's not exciting a few days later. That is totally normal. And I will say that I started praying the daily examen about a year ago, and I used a 5-year journal to just write a few sentences a day to remember the themes that I saw that God was working on, or something that I needed to remember to process later. I have to write those things down, or I will not remember it. And I'm looking back on those things now, and it was very basic at first. It was so said this funny thing, or this happened or that happened. Like, I just needed to get started with something. And so I just wrote, what was the first thing that kind of came to my mind. And then I saw, as the months went on and I continued to make this a practice, which took 2 to 5 minutes right before I went to bed, I could see that I was starting to grow in what I was noticing. There were patterns that I was starting to pick up on. As I practiced this, I was growing in my awareness of God and what he was doing there. And so it's really encouraging to go back and see that, okay, this is something that could help. This could help me, and I could grow in this area. So what we have done is we have printed out this great bookmark for you about the examen. And it just starts out with this paragraph, and it's our purpose. because sometimes we need to know, like, why am I doing this again? But that reading that paragraph every day can kind of reorient us to, okay, we spent all day maybe not aware of things, and now it's time to be aware. Now it's time to focus on these things again. So reading that will really help. And then it gives 5 steps. Again, you can take this however you would like to do it. But for those of you who that's just too much to say, oh, take it however you want. This is a great guide in helping you to start to think about some of these questions and reflecting on your day, or maybe there's a theme that you see, and so asking yourself, okay, God, where are you in this? What are you inviting me to do? And starting to learn how to stop and realize what is going on around you. And so use this bookmark however you want. It's a great reminder of what to do. And then I want to talk a little bit about the number 4 and number 5, which is a response and looking forward. So there may be a time that or I hope that you get to a time that you are starting to notice some things in your life, or different themes, and you need a little help. Like, you need help because or you're starting to grieve or struggle with things. And I would just encourage you, like, we are never meant to grieve alone, to struggle alone, to even have our joyful times alone. We were always meant to do that in community. And one way that we have to help with that is we have discipleship groups of 3-ish people who are committed to meeting regularly and discussing in an intentional way these themes that we're noticing in our lives, and where we learn to listen to each other and to ask each other questions and help discern what is God's invitation in these different struggles, and how can we move forward from that. So I would love to get you connected to one of those groups. And we have groups that are meeting, and that we can form new groups. But it's a very intentional time together. And going into those meetings, okay, this is going to be the time. This is my time limit. This is what we're going to talk about. And that's really helpful in these kind of this fast-paced culture that we live in. So I'm really excited to, start praying the Daily Examen as a congregation, and I'm here for any resources or any help that you may need getting started, or staying motivated to enter into this practice. Thanks.